Hello and welcome to Two Drink Maximum, the show over two drinks and nothing else. I'm your co-host Chase.
I'm your other host Shane Byerly.
It's a super. I always start with super.
It was a Super Tuesday a couple of days ago, but it's not super anymore.
And it was Oscar Super Tuesday.
That's right.
I always say the same thing on the opening, and I'm trying to break myself with that. But today we have a person from the north. Today we're joined by Samara Stern, Canadian actress and just generally bubbly, happy human in life.
Hello.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So generally, as we start on this show, we like to ask, tell us what we are drinking today.
We are having a mezcal old fashioned.
Yeah.
With maple syrup.
Yeah,
Because bringing to Canada.
That's exactly right. This is not our first old-fashioned mezcal old-fashioned on the show, but it's definitely our first one with maple syrup in it, and I'm very excited to try it. So let's clink some glasses here.
Woo.
Cheers. We'll give these bad boys a try. Let's see. Oh, that's good. You know what? Honest to God, and I'm not just saying this. You could pour this over pancakes. You really could. You absolutely could.
Alcoholics everywhere. You got a new breakfast treat.
Get the smoky mezcal pancake.
Really, like pancakes and sausage. Yes, this would sit over it perfectly.
Some breakfast links. This would be great. Well, very fitting that you picked a drink that is kind of multicultural and kind of includes a bunch of different ingredients. We are excited to have you here on the show for a whole number of reasons, but specifically one of the reasons that we're excited is because you just did something that is perhaps not necessarily unique, but it's certainly extraordinary.
Yes.
And we wanted to kind of highlight that and talk about it. So do you want to tell the listeners, what did you just do? What did you just give?
Sure. Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I appreciate that so much. I got my green card.
Yeah. Congratulations. That's exciting.
Yeah.
And
so
the excitement is very obvious because Here Tell is a very complicated process.
Oh.
Yes, indeed. Well, first, I want to back up just a little bit, right? Because I want to clarify what a green card is. For anybody who's listening who is not aware, it is not a visa, right? Which is a temporary student or work visa that allows you to live or work in the country for a brief, limited window of time, right? This is above and beyond that.
Yeah, so that would be a non-immigrant visa. What I have is an immigrant visa.
Okay.
I'm a permanent resident, a green card holder, resident alien, whatever you want to call it.
Right, exactly.
But it allows me to live and work here for 10 years.
Okay.
I can continue to renew after that, or I can become a citizen after 5.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So to be clear, it is different than being a United States citizen.
Yes.
Right, because that is a different thing. So it's kind of a middle where it's like it's not a visa where you can stay here for 10 years unimpeded, or you can become a citizen later. But it's this kind of cool middle ground where you don't have to worry about traveling back and forth and filling out a whole bunch of paperwork.
No, although I'm supposed to live here 6 months plus a day out of the year, so that I'm officially a resident of here. So there is that restriction.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. Well, let's kind of start at the beginning, right? Because I think a lot of people in this country have this kind of a lot
of people have very strong opinions on immigration.
Very strong opinions on immigration.
That's putting it kindly.
We aren't going to tackle all of them here today. But one thing that we do want to talk about, right, is a lot of common refrain that you hear from a lot of people who have very strong opinions about the immigration process is that they're fine with people coming into this country as long as they do it the right way. The right way. They keep saying that the right way. Oh, the right way. But you did it, the quote, right way. And it sounded incredibly difficult from start to finish. So, I mean, is that true?
That is very true.
Okay. So that's what we want to talk about.
What were some of the earliest challenges that you encountered in that process?
Well, first we had to qualify for alien of extraordinary ability. That's the kind of visa that it is. So it's a green card as an actor.
Sure.
So you have to match certain categories. The application itself was 700 pages.
Oh,
wow.
And I put it together myself. I had a lawyer friend who gave me advice, but most people have a lawyer do it for them.
Assemble it, yeah.
And I certainly couldn't have done it without my friend guiding me, but I did it myself.
Sure.
The 700 pages. So the blood, sweat, and tears that went into that, I do not shy away from feeling good about the accomplishment, especially being an actor. So often you put so much work into things and you might not have the immediate result. And while this took 3 years, it was not an immediate result.
Right.
The hard work did pay off. So I feel good about owning that effort.
Yeah.
I worked really hard, and it's a tricky thing because, of course, I have the privilege of coming from Canada.
Sure.
I'm not escaping a a situation where I'm in physical danger or anything like that. So I don't want to say that I'm more deserving than anybody else. Nothing like that at all. Everybody should be able to live where they are safe and happy and accepted.
Sure.
So just to make that clear, it's like the whole therapy thing of two things can be true at once. I can acknowledge that and also feel good about my accomplishment. Both those things can be true.
Yes.
Which is incredible. I've been to the IMDb. I've been to the DMV just to renew my license, and that process feels like a nightmare. So I cannot imagine going against the entirety of the U.S. government.
I know.
It was
to
wild.
try and prove anything to them.
It was wild. And then the initial approval came in. We paid for the premium processing to at least get the first yes within 15 days. I believe we got it in 11 days.
Okay.
It was right after the insurrection, so a wild time.
Yeah. Felt like a great time to join the country.
We need as many new ones as we can find.
Not great. But it's interesting because so many people have asked me, and I know I'm veering off on a tangent here, but why the U.S., and especially with that sort of timing.
Yeah, sure.
And first of all, being an actor, so wanting to be in L.A., I love the sun, the snow. I've had enough. Thank you. It's been enough years. I wear my snow pants on the TTC, the subway in Toronto. I'm good. Thank you. So definitely mentally quality of life. And then I sort of go, I knew that I was meant to live here when I came in 2019 and I did the Mount Hollywood hike at Griffith Park to the 360-degree view. I think it's called Captain's Roost. And I just started crying. Like you could just feel the creativity in the air and the expansiveness and anything's possible. And I just knew this is where I belonged. And so I did have a work visa for a while. I had the O1 Alien of Extraordinary Ability actor work visa, but you can only work as an actor on it, which obviously is not always the easiest to pay your bills.
Right.
Whereas with a green card, I can have any job. So it really changes everything for me.
Yeah.
And so that initial approval in January 2021 was the first hurdle. Then was getting all the documents to the NVC. I would send in a birth certificate and they wanted the long form birth certificate, not this birth certificate. So it took about 6 months to be considered documentarily complete because there were a lot of letters and things going back and forth. It wasn't an email or a phone call to get the information.
Right. And that was all associated with that 700-page document. Or is that the next step?
This was step 2.
Okay.
700-page document. Step 1, got the approval right after the insurrection.
Okay.
Woo! What? Okay.
I was surprised people were working, but yeah.
Yeah.
It was a weird time. And then the next step was getting documentarily complete at the NVC.
Right.
That happened in
The
July.
NVC is
the National Visa Consular.
Okay.
So they process my identification and then send it over to the consulate in Montreal to set up the interview.
Gotcha.
Because of COVID, there was such a backlog on the interview that the interview didn't happen till April 2023. So that was over 2 years after the approval.
Yeah.
I was living here at the time. I came here as a visitor, but I'd stayed over the winter, and then I flew home to do the interview. Now, what I was expecting, because this is what happened to friends of mine who got their green card, is at the interview, they would say, "Welcome to the United States of America." And you give them your passport. They put a special temporary green card stamp in it. They send it to you. And then, however, instead, I got put into an additional security screening it's an administrative processing. That can take years.
Yeah.
Wow.
The only way out of it was to sue the U.S. government, which I did, and they settled.
Yeah.
And that's how I got my green card, which is a wild part of the story. Like, how many people get to say, I
So you beat
sued
the US in court.
government? We didn't go to court. They settled, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But it took till December to get out of the additional administrative processing.
Yeah.
What a benign name they give that process for infinite hold.
Literally, I called my lawyer friend and he's like, "So you waiting for Godot?" And I'm like,
Right?
yes.
Yeah.
Get me out of here. And he was the one who put me in touch with a lawyer, put me in touch with another lawyer, ended up finding someone wonderful who got me out of that holding pattern. But it's really challenging when you want to start a new life,
Yeah.
but you're stuck in limbo and there's no end date.
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially.
How, by the way, how on brand, how uniquely American that the only way to win is to sue somebody.
Yeah.
Of course, fits just perfect.
We love our court system here.
So again, now for everybody keeping track at home. So first step was filling out every document you've ever received to prove you're alive in Canada.
Harry Potter 1.
Second step.
No, first step was a 700-page document proving that we met the qualification of alien of extraordinary ability.
So that's step 1.
Yes.
Okay, so you have to hire a lawyer for that. And if you don't have a lawyer friend, lawyers are quite expensive. I imagine Canadian lawyers don't work for free either. So
No, it's normally like 15 grand. So I will forever be grateful to the gentleman who guided me.
Okay, so the 700-page application first that absolutely requires a lawyer to process. Second step being gathering all your documents that prove that you are who you say you are and that you were born in Canada and all those things, and you have a fingerprint and a
Exactly,
face
the
and all this.
fingerprinting, all of that, yes.
Okay, so then the third part is the interview, which you have to complete. Now, I want to go back to that for a second because can you give me some examples of what questions they asked, and secondarily, what did you get? What did you think that they were getting at? I mean, what did you feel like? You know what I mean? Like when you interview for a job, what they're getting at is, are you going to be a good fit here? Are you going to be a good employee? What did you feel like the vibe that they were going for? What were they trying to get from you in this interview process?
That is such a good question. And I have a very boring answer. They just wanted the originals of all my identification documents.
Really? So they didn't like actually grill you?
Not really.
Okay.
No.
I think it's different requirements for different types of citizenships because there's like the naturalization process where they do have to take a test.
If I had married an American and got a green card that way, I know those questions are very intense, little invasive.
I don't think most Americans could answer them. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. But this was more taking the originals and going through the 700 pages and less about asking questions that I needed to answer.
So really they're interviewing your documents is what they're doing.
Right.
Basically. But I didn't know that. And someone had given me the
You all
advice
ready
to
with the
dress
speech?
up. No, but I bought new pants and a new shirt. I went to Aritzia. I was like, this is your big moment.
You look like
impress
you were
America.
going like an evening on the town.
Yes.
You're like, I look phenomenal here. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Did you seek out American brands just to like add a little?
I should have.
Get one of those Old Navy July 4th t-shirts that everybody wore from like
American
95
flag.
to
Oh my gosh, I remember when Old Navy came to Canada in the 90s and it was such a big deal.
Yeah.
It was such a big deal.
Yeah. Oh,
Random side note, apparently Canadians hated Target. Target moved in a number of years ago
Yeah.
and had zero success in Canada.
And actually, I believe... So I work at Second City in Toronto.
Nice.
I worked at Second City in Toronto in person. I still work for the virtual school here, but because I live here, I am not working at the training center in Toronto.
Right.
But I believe that the new training center, they bought one of the
An old
Targets
Target?
that went out. Yeah, because it's giant. So they were able to put in all these rooms, the stage, everything.
it's so weird. It just didn't click with Canadians. I don't understand.
know. I don't get it.
General consensus was everything's just too expensive and not high enough quality.
Interesting.
America, we're like, Target is the higher quality version of things.
Right. Well, I mean, look, different strokes, different folks. It's like how, we've talked before about like in California here, like In-N-Out, you can't go to an In-N-Out that doesn't have a drive-through down the street, like at all hours of the day.
Yeah.
When they put In-N-Outs in Texas, they were barren. They were like empty because everyone was like, no, we're good. We got Whataburger.
It was like 2 weeks of that. Yeah, it was like 2 weeks of, this is a new novelty. And everyone's like, yeah, it's a burger.
Yeah, okay. So, all right. So they didn't grill you with any like super tough questions, which is interesting. I thought they might have.
thought
were
so,
there
too.
were there any? But there wasn't also like a test part of it. Like, did you have to pass like a basic civics exam or anything like that? Okay.
The test essentially was that 700-page document proving the alien of extraordinary ability.
Okay.
Can you complete a difficult bureaucratic process successfully?
Yes,
If you
successfully.
can, welcome to America.
Can you handle paperwork?
Can you hold the faith while waiting that this thing will actually come through?
How bad do you want it? Because we've got more documents.
Yeah. So by the time it actually did come through, because we're still not even at the finish line. I came here December 6th to visit. Because if you apply through Canada, you can cross the border while waiting for your green card to come. If you apply through the States, you actually can't leave the country while waiting for it to come.
Oh, well, as always, Canada is much nicer.
Hey, I do have to say, all the Texans I have met are amazing. And
well,
so nice and so friendly.
We're our own little bubble.
And they give Canadians a run for their money.
Yeah, there you go. Texas expats, I think, are a little bit nicer than native Texans. But regardless, we're getting off track here.
Yes.
Anyways, you were saying,
So December 6th, I come here to visit for the month. December 8th, I get notice that I'm out of the additional security screening, the administrative processing. So I have to fly back to Canada pretty much immediately so that I can send my passport to the consulate to get that special stamp put in, and so I can get another medical exam. So I had already gotten a medical exam for my April interview. I had to get a blood test and a chest x-ray.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, the American government wants my blood. Okay.
Well, that's some very old, like Ellis Island style checks. 'Cause
Yeah.
people would check for cholera when people were coming from Europe and all those
Yeah,
things.
the chest x-ray
Yeah,
I
yeah.
asked, they said it was for TB. So when
Tuberculosis. Yeah.
So when they were done the additional security screening, they needed to redo the medical test because they were now 6 months out of date. For me, I'm afraid of blood tests.
Yeah.
Historically, I'm a fainter.
Don't do well when you-
I am
yeah.
so proud of myself of how well I did both times. It was like this bravery, this fearlessness. Maybe it's American fearlessness. I don't know.
They baked it into you while you sitting in those offices and reading all the documents.
It's possible, but I have never done better in my life, and I'm so proud of myself. Probably the most of that, honestly. But so I had to go back to get that. They needed both the medical test and my passport in order to complete the processing. And of course, laws are always changing. If I'd waited to come home, laws could have changed. Maybe the green card wouldn't go through at this point. I'm so close. Let's just get to that finish line.
Yeah.
I come home, I send all that in. The U.S. consulate did not reopen in their system whatever it is on their website that would allow the medical office to send in my results for multiple weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm like, can we just...
That sounds like an American thing.
just get this done?
Yeah. So like another month or two goes by.
Almost a month.
Yeah.
That was so frustrating. It was like every step of the way.
Yeah.
And then when they finally went to send the package, Canada Post lost
Oh, no.
my passport package at one point. I had to put in a claim to get it,
Wow.
which I did.
Yeah.
And the next day drove over the Niagara border because nothing was coming between me and that green card.
Yeah.
At this point, we are done. We are making it happen.
Yeah.
I'm a resident alien.
I will ride
Fuck
a barrel
off.
over
Yeah,
this
yeah.
waterfall if I have to.
I will.
I will ride a barrel of maple syrup over this thing if I have to.
Whatever needs to be done. So that was pretty wild. And also it was funny because to get the medical exam, I had to pay 350 Canadian dollars for that. Both times. It was my first time having to pay for healthcare. Was not happy about that.
They should put that on the sign when you drive into the U.S.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Health is expensive.
yeah. I was like, what? So, trying to get used to that. But going over the border, I ended up talking to the Border Patrol. Again, very much just taking documents, taking photos, nothing that was interrogating or anything like that. It was a big moment. Because then you are officially a green card holder. So I went to a bar because I was hungry. I needed something to eat.
Yeah.
I walk in because it's right over the border, Niagara. They ask what I'm doing in town because I guess you have a lot of people traveling in there. So I walk in and they ask me and I tell them I just got my green card. And they were so excited. It was so sweet. They played a rock version of Star Spangled Banner and we
Yeah.
all did a cheers and it was so exciting. Everyone was so excited for us.
Yeah,
They're like, you got to get pizza and buffalo wings. You're an American now.
You're an American, that's right.
Pizza and beer more than pizza and buffalo wings for me. But
Well, I
maybe
had
that's a
the beer
reason.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
mean, they have beer in Canada last I checked, but yeah.
we have amazing beer in Canada, okay?
Labatt's.
No,
No.
I'm talking Bellwoods Brewery for
There we go.
anyone from Toronto who would know that.
All apologies to Labatt's. Apparently, it is not welcome here.
Good Lord. Yeah. So, okay. So you finally get it. Now, for the record, I do want to make it clear. It is actually a green tinted card. It's not just called a green card. It
Yes.
is a card that is green.
Yes, I got it in the mail recently.
Is it like
How
is it like-
disappointed would you have been if it was a different color?
it's like purple. Yeah, that'd be wild.
You're like, what?
Yeah.
And to be clear, this entire process took 3 years.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say. So is the green card something that like most Americans do with their driver's license? Is it something that you need to kind of carry on your person, like in your purse or something? Do you need to have access to it? Or is it something you can kind of tuck away in a safe or in like a safety deposit box?
I think it's only needed when I need to prove that I can work here. So I don't have to carry it with me all the time.
Okay.
I did buy a stand for my desk
Yeah.
to put it on so I can look at it and remember that I'm smart and accomplished
Yeah.
and have done something that I'm really proud of and am capable of big things and making my dreams come true.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
for the most part, it sits there. Sometimes it's in my wallet, but
Sure. Nice.
it serves as a great reminder of what I'm capable of. That's
Yeah.
been the most interesting thing of this process. You cannot shy away from owning that you are an alien of extraordinary ability. In Canada, I feel like we're so used to downplaying our accomplishments.
Sure.
So when I first, for example, applied for the O1, the artist work visa alien of extraordinary ability, having to ask people to sign off documents saying I'm amazing, it was like I wanted to throw up. It was
Right,
horrible.
right.
And even when I get the email back
Oh.
saying yes and seeing it was there, it was like hard to even open because the imposter syndrome was so big.
Yeah.
But nothing in
Your
it
sweet
wasn't
Canadian heart.
nothing in it wasn't true.
Sure.
So I had to get comfortable because for that there was an interview, owning that yes, I am an alien of extraordinary ability. I have an extraordinary ability. I have things to be proud of.
Yeah.
And this entire immigration process, both in owning my professional accomplishments and also seeing what I was able to do to make this happen, has taught me how to own my badassery,
Yeah.
which is very American. Like I said,
Yes.
I feel in Canada, we often downplay our accomplishments, and Americans are not afraid to take up space. And I know it's not always a good thing.
We are great at being proud for zero reason.
Yeah. Let me tell you,
That's what we do here.
Americans do not need a document to tell us we're extraordinary
What'd you-
ability. Yeah.
USA.
Yeah. Exactly. We don't need a document to tell us we're extraordinary. We feel it in our bones, our star-spangled bones.
Whereas for me, this is something new.
It's a new thing. Yeah.
And I like being surrounded by people because
Yeah.
we can all own that we're awesome. I'd rather be surrounded by people. It's not thinking you're better than anyone. It's just knowing your worth and being surrounded by other people that know their worth. And we're all celebrating each other rather than a group of people who are playing small.
Sure. So so just to kind of to wrap up that part of the conversation. So let me just throw some rapid fire questions at you. I just want guesstimates, right?
Okay.
So from the time you decide, I want a green card and I'm going to actively put work into getting one, and then actually getting one, how long?
Everybody's is different.
For you, I'm saying.
Yeah.
For
you,
me?
how long? Yeah.
Because I had an O1 that I was able to repurpose into a green card, it didn't take super long to actually put together the documents.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it probably would have taken maybe 3.5 years.
Okay.
But it maybe took me 3 years and a month because
Okay.
I had a basis to work with and I spent every day working on it.
Yeah. But still, I mean, 3 years is a very long time. Okay. Second question. Again, you were very lucky that you had a lawyer friend who was willing to help you out. But if you didn't and you had to hire everybody, ballpark, what do you think you would have had to
yeah.
spend
$15,000.
at minimum?
Yeah.
Okay.
And keep in mind, I had to pay a lawyer to get out of the administrative processing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
There'd be an extra cost there.
And
for the lawyer to
third
do.
question, is there any part, and I don't need specifics, but is there any part of the process that you felt like went through just because of dumb luck, right? Like this government office was closed on this day, and if they would have been open, I would have gotten a bounce back and it would have set me back by 6 months. Or if I wouldn't have known this person, or if I wouldn't have been in Canada on this day. I mean, was there any amount of luck, or kind of, maybe not divine intervention is a bizarre way to put it, but was there any amount of luck to it that
Yeah.
you feel like?
I do. When we had to sue the U.S. government, something that the lawyer I hired for that said, it all depends which judge we get. If we get a Biden judge, good chance it'll go through. If we get a Trump judge,
Yeah.
less of a chance.
Yeah.
So we were lucky we got a Biden judge. But that certainly had luck to it.
Sure.
The roll of the judicial dice, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just,
Did you get to select the venue at all, or just randomly gets assigned to a court?
So because I had spent a fair amount of time in North Hollywood,
Yeah.
I was able to apply to the courts in LA.
Okay.
Which
So
generally are more Biden leading.
Sure.
You had the ability to get a more friendly judgment.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
yeah.
I guess what I'm ultimately getting at is, I mean, you can't see our faces, but I mean, we're both kind of gobsmacked that like the amount of effort and ability that it took. And again, a little bit of luck, right? That it's like that was out of your control. And it's like that, I mean, that you did it the right way. And that was like such an uphill battle. I mean, A, congratulations, that you should be so proud of yourself. But B, it's just, I mean, that's insane. Like, and again, we touched on it a little bit, but like these people who keep insisting that you should come in this country the right way, it's like,
well, yeah,
it's just crazy. I mean, it's just like that. I mean, that's kind of the point here.
The majority of the loudest voices that make that statement have no idea what the actual process is.
Right.
No.
They're just like, well, we know there's a right way and there's a wrong way, and because I'm for the right way.
Right, exactly.
And I can say for me, it was such a challenging process and emotionally draining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Keeping the faith was so hard. Every setback, being able to problem solve and figure it out, it was just emotionally so challenging. And I was not escaping a dangerous situation, a dangerous government, a dangerous country.
Right.
So, yes, the process is difficult. And oh my gosh, my heart breaks for people who aren't coming from Canada.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's a tough process, and it's not for the faint-hearted, as you said.
No.
Well, congratulations. We are proud. We're excited to have you. You know what else is not for the faint-hearted? Staring down the empty barrel of 3 empty glasses.
That's right.
So we are going to take a quick break. We're going to make a refill, and we'll be back with Samara Stern in just a moment.
Woo!
Thank you very much for listening to part 1. We just wanted to take a moment during the break to let you know about the wonderful creative co-working space that is also our sponsor. That is the Muse Rooms, with locations in Burbank and Hollywood.
That's right, 2 locations for your convenience.
Anywhere you want to go, they're there for you. It's a really wonderful creative working space. The amenities are great. It's incredibly designed, and also it has an incredible community, and they have all kinds of like events and stuff to keep you engaged. It's absolutely something you should check out if you're looking for a place to get out of your home, do a little work, especially for those of us that have been trapped over the COVID and the work from home transition.
That's right. Good to get out, good to see people. And let's just face it, the Muse Rooms, it's just cool. You know what I mean?
Right?
It's got that
super
cool factor. Yeah.
Everybody's really fantastic there. So check them out at the Muse Rooms. That's MUSE.com. Very affordable, wonderful prices, and flexible for whatever you want. It's really, really great.
Check them out for all your creative space needs.
And now, time for part 2.
And we are back with Samara Stern with our second drink. Welcome back, everybody.
Luckily, we didn't have to fill out 700 pages to get this second drink in front of us.
Thank goodness.
But we did have to hire a lawyer, so it all comes out even in the wash. Yeah.
He's quietly in the corner. Just
So as we were saying before we cut to break, so you're here. You live here now. So one of the things that we thought would be fun to do is we have a list here of some very common misconceptions that Americans have about Canada. And we wanted to run them by you.
Yes.
And we wanted to kind of pick your brain about them. So the biggest one that we want to start with that I think most people truly do believe, but I think you can easily dispel it. Free healthcare. Everything is just free in Canada.
Free, walk in, you go, I'm hurt. Doctors run over.
Doctors run over. George Clooney comes in the ER, like personally tends to you for 6 months. Like, what is the healthcare system actually like in Canada? Is it, I mean, yes, it's subsidized, but it's not like a utopia, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love our healthcare system. We do not have Clooney, but it is free. We get the help we need. I had a benign cyst in my jaw. I had to have surgery. It was all free. I did not have to wait forever for it. All of these horror stories you hear, not my experience at all. My grandmother just had to be in assisted living it was between 45 to 90 days that she would have to be there. I went to visit her. She had her own room, her own kitchen, all covered by the government.
Nice.
That's not half bad.
Love that my tax dollars help people who can't afford health care get health care. The idea that someone who's homeless gets cancer and can get help, I feel good about that. And so is it perfect? No. But is it awesome and accessible and gets the job done? Absolutely. And that is something that I thought about when moving here. When I think about if I were to one day have a family and have kids here, being able to instill those values of taking care of each other.
Sure.
Even if that's not reflected in, let's say, the healthcare system.
The healthcare system.
Because
here,
it is something that I think is really special and wonderful. The running joke in Canada when Breaking Bad came out was if it happened in Canada,
couldn't do it.
he'd be like, well, how am I going to pay for this? They'd be like, oh, you don't have to pay.
Yeah, just show up.
What
We'll
monster
take care of
place
it.
would
He'd just
make
still
you
be
pay?
a really melancholic teacher.
Yeah.
It's not as exciting a show.
No.
Yeah.
So for me, it's something that I actually take a lot of pride in, that I
Nice.
really love, that is a bit of a mind fuck to let go of.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, so we can say myth true, it sounds like. I mean, in the sense that
Sounds
their
wonderful.
system seems a lot better than ours. So that's good to know from an actual.
And I will say, I had lived with someone this year who was dealing with the American healthcare system, and it sounded like a nightmare. They were so frustrated with the bureaucracy of
Yeah.
it all. Again, ours is not perfect, but neither is the one where you pay for it yourself or your company does.
Yeah.
So I would rather have it be that we take care of each other.
Yeah.
Now, that said, eye exams are not covered and dentists are not covered.
Why?
I don't
Why?
know eyes and teeth.
Across the globe, you don't need to see and you don't need teeth. Those
Fuck
are
those teeth.
optional
You don't need
things.
them.
I don't know.
Yeah, you don't need those. Okay, next rumor. All Canadians say a and a boot.
Yeah. What's that, a boot, eh?
Okay. So I say A every once in a while. I did have a Canadian friend point out that I said A the other day. So I don't think I've said it in this podcast yet, but is it part of my vernacular?
Sure.
Sure.
What's the proper use of a? Can you define it that like
Can
grammatically
I
that way?
Can I define A? Can I define A?
Like how is it used? Like I know how y'all is used. I'm addressing a group of people.
Last night was wild, eh?
Yeah.
It's like I'm
Oh,
checking
so it's-
in with you. You
okay.
agree?
You know what? You know
Eh?
what it is? It seems like it's the Canadian translation of "huh,"
Huh.
right? Because you and I would say like last night was wild, huh?
Okay.
You know, but
Sure.
it's just a. Yeah.
Yeah.
Eh?
A boot? I don't think I
It's so
say
it's
it.
so charming. When
I
it-
have heard people say that they've heard things in my O's.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to hear with about. Is that correct? About?
about yeah.
About?
That's
It
is
the
a little
American-
longer.
But I also have been trying to train myself to have what they call a standard American accent because
Yeah,
that's what they want for auditions.
Well, sure.
And so, instead of process,
Yeah.
orange, horrible, like just slightly
Right.
different
vowel stuff.
pronunciations. So about, I don't know. I will say the hardest thing to unlearn was sorry.
Sorry,
And that I
yeah.
said all the time. Sorry,
That's
sorry,
the one that I hear
sorry.
the most from people.
Yeah.
that are-
So I do now say sorry. It is an active. It's like driving on the other side of the road. It is an active thought process to
Yeah.
say sorry and not sorry. I remember asking a friend, an American friend, "Well, how do Americans say sorry?" And
They
he
don't.
goes, "Yeah, they don't."
we don't apologize. We're Americans.
They say what? No.
We all have extraordinary
Yeah, I meant to do
abilities.
that.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, it
Yeah.
is true in Canada. If someone bumps into me on the street, I will apologize to them.
Yeah.
I'm
And
so sorry for getting in your way.
Right. No, that's real. And so part of learning to take up space and not play small in my life
Yeah.
is letting go of some of those cultural things. That at a grocery store, if I'm walking around someone, I'm trying to say, excuse me, instead of sorry. Because
Yeah.
sorry feels like I made a mistake. I'm doing something bad. And you can still be polite,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but you don't have to make yourself small. if
Where
that
and
makes
when
sense.
did you think that concept started to get baked into you when you were growing up? Like, is it just a cultural thing, or did you have like family members that were like particularly mindful of you being,
No, it's everybody everywhere. I don't know if you've watched How I Met Your Mother, but a lot of the stereotypes with Robin.
Yeah.
And when they have the Canadian bar and she literally goes, "Let me see if it's really Canadian," or whatever the exact quote is. And she throws her body into a guy. He turns around, apologizes, and offers her some donuts. So it is real. And
Yeah.
she's from Vancouver, I believe, Kobe Smulders. So it is cross country.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
fascinating. That's so
Although,
wild.
to be fair, that is, if it makes you feel a little bit more at home here, that's not necessarily uniquely Canadian. The Midwest, where my
I've
wife is
heard.
from, is also very, and their
yeah.
thing instead of sorry is the word OOP. Up. Oh, so you bump into somebody. And
That's
it's like
so
that just comes
cute.
out.
That's the thing.
So that's So again, maybe it's just a cold thing. Who knows?
It's possible.
Yeah.
Cold
All right.
thing.
Next Canadian myth.
Yes, bring
The
it on.
only police in Canada are the Royal Canadian
Ah,
Mounted.
no,
Is
that
this true?
false.
I hope this is true.
It is false.
It's not true. Wildly
It is false.
disappointing.
You never been pulled over by a man on a horse?
No.
Trots up to your window?
No,
You know
the
why I
on-
pulled you over today? Eh?
That was good. No. The only time I've ever seen Mounties, which is what we call them,
Yeah.
I've only seen them when I was in Lake Louise or Jasper, traveling out west. I've seen them. But in Toronto, we've got the Toronto Police, we've got the OPP, the Ontario Provincial Police.
Down with
Which-
OPP.
Which look like their uniforms are similar to the uniforms you see anywhere else.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
So no red outfit and wide
I
brimmed
just want
hat and
Dudley
horses.
Do-Right.
So
on
where?
every
Yeah, I
corner
was
of
gonna say
Canada.
Dudley Do Right. So if you wanted to see the Royal Canadian Mounties, where's your best? Like where do you need to break the law if you want to get involved? You get tangled up with those people.
If you want a guy in a wide hat and a horse to set you straight.
It's a brown hat, right? It's a brown hat.
I said
and
wide.
Wide. Oh, sorry. Yeah. It's like a brown hat, wide, like with shouldered.
Out west, I'd say for
Out
sure.
west.
Now, here's the thing. I grew up just outside in a suburb just outside of Toronto. Now, lots of people these days will say just outside of Toronto and then reference cities that are an hour or two away. I was on the other side of Steeles, the border between Toronto and Vaughan, the suburb, which is where I grew up.
Okay.
So I am from just outside of Toronto. It's this weird thing where people now, like an hour or two away, they're like, outside. I'm like, it is not. That said, people who grew up downtown are so bougie about me, where I lived in Midtown Toronto for 12 years. I would take the bus and subway downtown all the time growing up. My parents are from Toronto. One side of grandparents are from Toronto, and yet people will be like, "Oh, you're clearly a 905er. You're not Toronto." And I'm like, "What?"
It's like 8
I
Mile,
lived
like
in
you're
New York-
outside of the circle. Or,
Exactly.
You ain't
so
from here.
The way I'm saying about other people saying they're from just outside Toronto and they're not, when I say I'm from Toronto, people really from there are like, "You're a 905er."
Yeah, it's true though. There's cities here like Houston and Texas is one where it's like there's a freeway that kind of runs around the entire outside of the city. And from Houston, like if you're from Houston, you're either in the loop or you're out of the loop. Type deal. You
out
know
of
what I
the
mean? It's
loop.
like if you're from out of the loop, you ain't from Houston. You know?
That said, if you live in New York City and have lived there for a period of time, you can call yourself a New Yorker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
but
you
they
So
still
call
I don't know
yourself a
why
New
I
Yorker.
don't.
A New Yorker. They still got neighborhoods there, though. You can say I'm from the Bronx or I'm from Queens.
For sure.
Like, they have that.
But no one downtown is going to be like, actually, you're clearly this other area code. Whereas I got that in Toronto.
Best neighborhood in New York. Say it at the same time. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Queens?
Yonkers.
No, sorry.
What neighborhood is Yonkers? I don't even know. That sounds like an arcade
Yonkers, I
game.
believe, is in Jersey.
No, it's not. DMX is from Yonkers.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm just saying that sounds like a space, like an arcade video game. Where are you from? Yonkers.
It's great.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 more.
Bring it.
All Canadians speak French.
So we don't all speak French, but I can say in Ontario, you have to take French in school till grade 9.
So did you?
Je
But you
parle
didn't.
français un petit peu.
Okay, I took a little bit of French. This is a true story. In college, because we took in our high school Spanish was
We had
the only
Spanish,
Spanish was the only class that we could take. In college, I decided I want to try something different. So instead of Spanish, I took French. This is true. French 1, you had to take 4 semesters of it, right? So French 1, I got an A. French 2, I got a B. French 3, I got a C. And French 4, D for diploma, baby. And I swear to you, the only reason I got a D, I absolutely failed that class. I'm certain I passed because the professor, I made her laugh quite a bit. And some of it was intentional, and some of it was, I'm just trying my best and I can't get this. And I guarantee when the teacher came up to my grade, she was like, this kid definitely failed.
He worked so hard.
But he worked so hard. Just D, and I don't want to see him again. Just off he goes.
Au revoir.
So I tried. So I understood what you actually just said. But so you speak a little bit of it? Is that fairly common that most Canadians at least speak a little?
A little. Some remember more than others. Now, I had spent some time, my sister's husband speaks French. My little niece is 2 years old, and he speaks French to her. She speaks French.
Oh, oui, oui.
So she'll say, ask for a pomme instead of an apple. It's the sweetest thing in the world. And so I think some of my French has come back by spending so much time with them. And I was reading her books in French as well.
Yeah.
I also spent years as a substitute teacher. That was my flexible actor gig. Still is. And I have taught French classes, early grades, grade 1, grade 2. I could do that.
Okay.
So
no imposter syndrome teaching level 1 French.
no, but
Okay.
grade 8 French, probably
Yeah,
not
you're
the best
okay.
fit.
All right.
The most I know about French is that it has the most powerful and like the best no of any language.
No.
Just a no.
Yeah, it's so,
So
good.
strong.
Yeah, yeah.
There's so much in those two, like no.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know.
Your whole body feels that no.
It's like full mouth, full shoulders
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
say it. No.
everything in you's offended.
Yeah, yeah.
My favorite French words are champignon and pamplemousse.
Pamplemousse.
I know, it's so good.
Yeah, yeah. I always liked green beans, which is haricot vert. Yeah. I'd say I knew a few here and
I
there.
have Dexter's Lab omelette du fromage.
Omelette du fromage. Yeah, fromage.
I can get breakfast
Yeah,
in
there
France.
you go.
And
Okay.
Croissant.
There you go.
Where
Croissant.
you just mush your mouth together and say a TH in the middle for no reason.
Yeah, yeah. You can always tell when somebody studied abroad for a season in college because they came back and they're like, "How about some mozzarella?" You're like, "Shut up! It's mozzarella."
You're from here.
Yeah, stop it.
Coffee and a croissant, please.
Okay, final myth. And I'm not even asking if this one's true. I'm
This one
telling
is true.
you it's true. And I will tell you why it's true. All Canadians are obsessed with maple syrup. And here's how I know this is true. Because we do research on this show. We like to prep for all of our
Sometimes?
guests. Sometimes we do. We're classy here. We're well-versed. While I'm researching this very article, and I'm reading this paragraph on the maple syrup, you texted me, "Hey, it'd be fun. For the drink, I should swap out simple syrup with maple syrup because it's delicious. If you don't have pure maple syrup, I have it. I'll bring it." I was like, "Well, okay, I don't even have to ask about this
Bringing
one."
the fake maple syrup,
Yeah.
okay?
So-
it's 100% pure or it's nothing.
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
Canadian spider sense went off
So-
when he was thinking
I'm
about
not
maple
asking
syrup.
you if it's true. I know it is. Tell me why it's true.
Because it's delicious.
I mean, it is.
It is
really
so good.
is. Yeah.
It is so good. Like, it's baked into childhood memories of waffles and pancakes.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd visit my uncle and aunt in Chelsea, Quebec. We'd go to the Byward Market in Ottawa, get cans of maple syrup. My uncle would bring them to Toronto for my
Cans.
dad. Oh, you need a can. You want the best value? You get a can and you get it from Ottawa. And you have someone bring it to you. It's like a drug trade.
So we put maple syrup in cans, we put milk in bags.
Bags.
There's
Yes.
so much weird in
Yeah.
Canada.
On a very
Canada.
early episode of this show, Chase was
my mind was blown.
gobsmacked to learn that milk is sold in bags in Canada, at least in some spots.
It's wild. One of my friends who I lived with in theater school, who I'm still friends with and is from LA, everyone in theater school knows about the first time she saw milk in a bag. She freaked out.
Yeah, yeah.
It's weird.
Because it's weird.
Is
and
it
it's
just a
wild.
Franzia box with a cow on it? Like, what does it look like?
Where do you put the missing persons? That's the
Yes.
real question, right? They look sad and wilted as the
Their
bag.
face gets all mushed.
Less missing persons in Canada.
What's the?
The gun control helps.
Yeah,
Have
that's
to
right.
waste
Yeah.
the bag space.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true.
They can just tell people to be polite to each other.
Yeah, just don't kidnap kids. Come
Be
on,
nice, eh?
We're not going to put them on the bag, eh? No, I'm just kidding. So let me ask you this: what is for people at home? Is there a way to easily tell when you're eating it what pure maple syrup tastes like versus
Yeah.
the cheap, fake, or the art of not 100% pure? How do you know?
What are some
Can you
good
tell
syrup?
the difference between Lagavulin and a $15 scotch? Like,
Wow, sure.
I cannot.
yeah.
yeah. He can. I'm trying to teach him, but yes, I
Yeah.
get your
I
point.
think
I'm
you'd
learning.
have to taste it. But once you taste it, there's no going
There's
back.
no going back. Okay,
It
sure.
just tastes amazing.
Yeah, it's so sweet, and I mean, I can't.
It's sweet, but it doesn't taste like regular sugar, right? It's maple sugar. We have maple sugar candies. You can get all
Oh,
sorts
wow.
of, oh yeah. And it's like totally pure maple sugar, but somehow they get it to just crystallize and you put it in your mouth and it melts in your mouth.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
It's
this is why
heaven.
they don't cover teeth in Canada.
Yeah. That's why they don't
Because
go.
they're
True.
feeding you maple sugar candies. And
Yeah, everyone would be getting dentures
We
by 15.
figured it out. But it is funny because that is one thing that makes me laugh so hard that and for sure, text you go, it has to be 100% pure.
And
Otherwise, what is the point?
And it was literally at the exact moment that I'm reading this like rumor about like they're all obsessed with maple syrup. I was like, it's confirmed. That's absolutely, that was all the proof I need.
You were at home, you're like, someone's thinking about maple syrup.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's thinking about it. I better
My
correct.
Canadian sense is
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are
Syrup
some of
sense.
maybe the myths that you may have heard about America, or maybe some misconceptions that now that you're here and you've been here a bunch, like what were some of the things that you thought might have been true, or maybe what were some of the things that now that you're here like surprises you? One of the things I hear is like super common is that from everywhere in the world, they're like the drinks that you people serve, like in gas stations and restaurants, they're just gargantuan. They're like gallon-sized containers. Is that a thing in Canada as well, or is there?
No, our portions are much smaller. So when I go to a restaurant and our dollar is not worth as much as the American dollar, so a $5 coffee is like $8 Canadian dollars.
Yeah.
When I get a meal here, there's that moment of, ugh. And then you see the portion, you're like, well, if you think about the portion to Canada, with the dollar, it's actually kind of even. It works out okay.
You want good value, get you to Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Everything's bigger in Texas, they say.
Serves 4 people on one plate.
Yeah.
Wow. So I would say that alcohol is a lot cheaper here because
Sure.
we tax it a
Really?
lot. Yeah.
Is it stronger here too?
No.
Okay. All right.
So
To
that
discuss the just what.
I remember the
that is
No.
big because the stereotype is that American beers are weak.
Oh.
I think the
And-
big ones are the Budweisers,
Right.
the Miller Lights.
Right.
Those are just water.
Whereas, in Canada, it's not often I come across a beer that's below 5%. And then if you go to Quebec, which I love those like 10% dark beers.
Yeah.
But I actually have had a lot of good American beer, whereas I had heard this stereotype that it's like water or something less flattering than water compared to Canadian
I've heard horse piss.
beer. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Compared to, but there's a lot of good craft breweries now here, and I've had some good beer. But I would say the biggest misconception was people talk all the time about how friendly Canadians are, and I know I already hit on that. But the Americans I've met have been so friendly and wonderful. And truthfully, I'm not just saying it because of you two. So many of them are from Texas, which again, you have this idea of Texas.
Yeah.
And what I've encountered is just the loveliest, kindest, thoughtful, wonderful human beings. And I think because in LA, so many of us are transplants. As someone new here, I've been really lucky to have wonderful people take me under their wing. You're new. You don't know stuff. You need friends. Let's be friends. I mean, I've told the story so many times, Shane, of when we first met and I got here May 2022 and you knocked on the door the first day I arrived to just say, hi, want to hang out with me and my wife?
Yeah.
And you knocked on the door and my immediate thought was, oh my God, I'm in the US, someone with a gun. And of course I opened the door. There's this like 6'5" man who's the kindest soul who invites me to be friends with him and his wife. And the second we met, I was like, we are friends and you're stuck with me. Sorry.
It's time for the truth. I did it because I thought you probably had a decent supply of maple syrup. No, I'm kidding.
But I think about that. No one in Canada, I've never had someone in Canada knock on my door and invite me over to be friends. No. Now there are places outside of Toronto, people who hate Toronto will probably be like, oh, it's because Toronto people aren't friendly and suck. And I don't think that's true. But I will say the level of kindness, love, support, openness that I have experienced here. And a lot of people say also LA, it's a blue state. It's a different mindset.
Sure.
It's its own microcosm. So that could play into it as well. But the friendships that I've made in a really short time have been life-changing.
Sure.
And that's been pretty incredible. And when you're told that you as the Canadian are the friendly one, and then you meet people who are so friendly, like I wasn't expecting that. And it's been the most wonderful surprise.
Aw.
Well, that's good. It's good to know that we're not all trash. I mean, because
Definitely not.
Well, it's also LA. We're all obviously faking.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. This isn't even my real face. This is all Botox. So you think I'm smiling? I'm not. I'm definitely not. Yeah, no.
So that would be a big one. Again, probably because of the state we're in, the people I've connected with are not gun lovers. generally. And of
Wrong
course,
state
so
for that.
much, right.
Yeah.
And so much of what I
Well,
expected.
wrong city, the north of us, and there's other parts of the city.
Right.
Yeah, Bakersfield.
And it did surprise me living in North Hollywood when you see a department store called Gun World and you're from a place with gun
good old Gun
control.
World.
What?
Which
Like,
is
that
across the street from Guns Direct.
I saw.
Which is also a town over from Guns R Us.
Like, that is a mind fuck as well, especially when you think about raising kids. So while that was shocking, when I'm at parties and I'm meeting people, I'm very careful not to say anything inflammatory. And I remember one time being at your house, Shane, and carefully maybe bringing up Gun World. I can't remember. And you said to me, "Oh, don't worry, we don't like guns."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Okay."
we don't have
but I
guns
actually
in my
haven't
house,
met anyone here that does. Since in LA from my time getting here. Yeah. And so this idea that Americans just love guns.
Yeah. I mean, I do, for the record, Americans
a very
do
large
love
portion of
guns.
For
Yeah,
sure. I am just saying it's a good reminder to not make assumptions based on stereotypes.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And there are a lot of people I have met here with very similar values, values that I think of as Canadian.
Sure.
And that's been surprising.
Yeah,
That's wonderful.
For sure. Well, it's good to know that we somewhat meet your expectations, I think, or we at least live up to some of them, I imagine.
Well, you two are wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Well, as we start to kind of wind down our drinks here, what's next for you? I mean, you're here, you've got your feet firmly planted on American soil. What's next? I mean, what's kind of the next move for you?
Great question. Each part of this has been such an adventure. Mm-hmm. And in my brain, I've thought of each part as a chapter. Mm-hmm. So when I got here at the end of August 2022, in my brain, that was chapter 1. I went back to Toronto for a bit, chapter 2. Chapter 3, coming here in the winter. Chapter 4, green card interview. And so on. And so now I'm in a new chapter now where I have the green card and it's about building a life. I've spent a lot of time here since 2022, but this time it feels completely different because there's no red tape. In a weird way, being stuck in limbo, while that was so frustrating and I couldn't wait to hit the ground running, it also was, in some ways, a good excuse to not, to explain why I'm not where I want to be right now.
Sure.
Because I can't worry. Right. Mm-hmm. The crutch is gone. It is flying time.
Tiny Tim, no more.
No. And so Tiny Sam, no more. And so it feels very different. And what's next? I'm not 100% sure. It's one foot in front of the other. But I'm getting my own place this week, which I'm very excited about. I am going to start substitute teaching here to subsidize my acting income. I'm auditioning here. I'm auditioning in Toronto. I'm working towards becoming a studio teacher, so supporting kids on set because I have a teaching degree.
Yes.
And so I'm excited for that. And just continuing to build community and friendships and networking and exploring LA and exploring this version of myself. The coolest thing about moving to a new place is that you show up as the person you are now. Nobody has any preconceived notions of who you are. So while I might have not thought of myself as the most adventurous, brave person, everyone who's met me here has thought, oh my gosh, you're so brave and you're so adventurous and you've come here, you moved to a new country and you're doing it. And my goodness, like the feedback on that. And it's reinforced that for myself. That gets reflected back to me and that makes me feel braver, more confident taking risks. So continuing to explore who is Samara in this chapter of her life.
Yeah.
And that's really exciting for me because I don't have all the answers yet. I'm still learning.
And isn't that kind of part of the American dream, right? Is that you come here and you find out who you are, right? Or you can be who you want to be.
Exactly. It's so funny. I used to see the American flag and in my head I'd hear America, right? But now when I see the American flag, I see the freedom and the liberty and the land of opportunity and everything that I worked so hard for, which is what it was meant to stand for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it is really interesting to me how that has shifted in this chapter.
Cut to a couple years from now, you're going to be in a star-spangled bikini at a Toby Keith concert. You know,
One can dream.
I hope you're not, but hey, if you want to be,
yeah.
USA all the way. So I guess just to start to wrap it up here for us, is there any advice you would give someone wanting to start this process?
So the first thing I would do is call a lawyer, because a lot of them do free consultations, and find out whether you qualify, what kind of visa, whether you qualify for a green card. You can get all that information and make decisions from there. So I would say that's a great place to start. And know that you can do it. It is big. It can feel big and it can feel daunting. But the thing that I found the most helpful was surrounding myself with people who did it, whether that's through social media and you don't know them in real life, or connecting with them in real life. Either way, the more I surrounded myself with stories of people who got their O1s, who got their green cards, the more I believed it was possible for me too. And that mindset shift, I think, is what allowed everything to happen, allowed me to find the strength and the bravery to go after this and to not give up despite all the hurdles.
It's incredible. That's a documented phenomenon too, by the way, of like just surrounding yourself with people who've done it. One of my favorite stories is, and I forget the name of the guy, but up to a certain point in human history, it was a known fact that it was biologically, physically impossible to run a mile in under 4 minutes.
Oh, yes.
And then I think it was in the 30s, somebody did it. And then, do you know how long it took for somebody to beat that record after he did it? A month.
Yeah.
A month.
Oh my
All it took was
gosh.
one person
You
to
don't
do
know
it. and
what
then
you can do until you do it.
someone did
Right.
it. Yeah, exactly. That's great advice. Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and then I'm going to add one more question just because I'm
Absolutely.
curious.
Please.
If you now could talk to yourself at the beginning of this process, what would you tell yourself?
I would say, Sam, you are braver and more capable than you even know yet. You have big dreams, but you are fully capable of accomplishing them. Do not lose faith in yourself and don't give up.
Beautiful.
That's great. We can cut that out and send it to you. You can be your own ringtone there.
Aww.
Well, it looks like we are again staring down
are.
at 3 empty glasses. So I think it's about time for us to call it a night here. Sam, thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Absolutely.
We really do appreciate it. We'd love to have you back sometime.
Anytime.
Hopefully.
And dealing with the entirety of the American bureaucracy to get to this
Yeah,
country.
yeah, exactly. That's going to wrap it up for us here. Please do give the show a follow on 2 Drink Maximum on Instagram. That's TWODRINKMAXIMUM.
That's right.
Yes.
I always got to check that out. We were so smart and made our
Hard to spell word, yeah.
so long. We'd also like to thank the Muse Rooms for providing this wonderful recording space, creative co-working space here in Hollywood, California. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
Cheers.